Hello, everyone. Welcome to Down Deep here in another Helm to Tower podcast. We're down in the deep because it is time to talk about Season of the Deep, the new season of Destiny 2, and a whole lot of other stuff. You could say we are definitely drowning down in the deep, Alex O'Neill, my co-host. That's right. Had
Hell
to get it
yeah.
in there. It's been a pretty interesting week in the world of Destiny 2, and also, I guess, just Bungie in general, which are obviously the developers of Bungie. A lot of cool, interesting announcements. Definitely none were not expected announcements this week, as well as the new season. The new season is here. Played a bunch. Played a decent amount. I'd say I'd still have not played as much as I'd like, just because I was still trying to get Zelda off my plate. But I played some this week and had a good time. And the dungeon as well. Dungeon just came out the day before we're recording this, and we both got a chance to run it. So we'll talk about that and all that stuff. But yeah, Alex, so far, how are you feeling about Season of the Deep? How about we start with let's start with the activities, maybe the story mission. How you feeling so far?
Impressions. Feeling good. Yeah, I guess this is your warning. If you have not jumped into the season yet or played the dungeon,
Yep.
Though we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. Definitely go check that stuff out because it's rad.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I'm really really pleased, especially with the dungeon. That got me like. It was a little bit of a sleepy start, to stuff, and
Sure.
that got me like way more hyped up, and the weapons and stuff got me really excited. But yeah, so Season of Deep, I like that kind of easing into it. Feels like kind of chill, There's no like we were talking about. We weren't really sure what the vibe of unlocks and paradigm 3x5 grids and whatnot, what that was going to look like.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, okay, there are these bonus challenges that will unlock things, and potentially there will be more in future weeks. We don't know yet.
Yeah. And it's nice that it's mentioning it's not completely gone. It's not just what I think we mentioned. Hopefully it's just we start out the season and it is like you just have all that stuff. It's unfortunately not like that, but there's just like a set of challenges you can do. Like I said, they're just considered bonus challenges. And I think the nice thing is it seems like they're not time gated at all, or the majority of them are not time gated, because I think there's a couple that are like, hey, you have to defeat the boss of this particular activity for the week, because I'm assuming most activities will probably be weekly rotation. There'll be different bosses in the new activities, and then you have to go fight them and stuff. But other than that, I've done most of those already, which is kind of nice. I like that.
Yeah, especially hey, you want to get that deep sight weapon every week. You can kind of get that rolling right away. Hey, you want to be able to focus the armor for high stat armor. All you got to do is just unlock the armor by getting random drops. Once you get every piece, boom, you can focus it, which is great. I think that's smart. That's cool. And the activity, we're back to 6-person activities, salvage, but we also have a 3-person activity, which is kind of, it seems like those are going to be like repeats of the story missions, or some of the story missions. I imagine there will be other ones that are kind of like the intro mission where we go and find Sloane and all that. And those have kind of like weird roguelike-y kind of mechanics.
Yeah. You're basically, there's the deep dives, I think is what they're called. And they're basically like you said, they're 3-player activities, or you can just do it solo. I think it was actually kind of cool there's actually those options for the activity. Like when you select it, it'll give you match made, or you can select private, and then it'll just load you in by yourself. And also it's interesting that it is not there's no mid joining. So if you have your group, you're going in with your group, or if not, somebody drops. I guess somebody drops. So but no one can join it mid thing. So I totally had one time where I did one, and I chose matchmaking, and it still just put me by myself because I guess I just couldn't find anybody. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what it is, and I did it. I did solo fine, but.
Yeah, did it scale down for just one person?
I'm not sure, just because when I did for the story, I didn't do it with people either, so I'm not sure if it's different with different people. I know there is the whole, like you said, there is a whole mechanic where right at the start you basically pick 2 power ups. They're essentially they're a gift from the Leviathan we have now seen throughout this early story and some of like the trailer and stuff they showed. Amsa is the name of the Leviathan that we've now learned from some of the story stuff that happened this week.
Is it Amsa or Asa?
Oh, I think you're right. I think it's Asa. I think you're right. But yeah, there's basically just two, and I've seen like a few different ones. Like I had one that was just your grenade recharge rate is up by 500%. That's what I had, and I just
that's awesome.
That was Arc Warlock, so I was like just like eating my grenade like every few seconds, just like I pretty much ran through it. And that's when I did it by myself, so maybe it's that's how they balance that. Maybe maybe that's how they do that then, because that was one of the ones I had when I was just running it by myself. But there's also like other things inside the mission. I don't know if you've seen any of that stuff where like when you first start an activity, there's like a Toland orb you go up to, and then you activate that, and it adds like extra challenges on top of the part of the activity you're doing. And if you do those, it like increases how deep you go, and it like shows like you're like 5,000 deep, and it keeps going lower. And like you're supposed to get that, like getting to higher tiers rewards you more stuff. Like you get more chests at the end and more rewards and stuff. Seems like how it's supposed to play out, which is pretty interesting. So it's like that kind of balance of trying to get those challenges, and you do need to get like a separate set of keys. I think they're like deep dive keys, yeah, for the activity.
Salvage keys as well. That's maybe the only thing where I'm like, do we need two sets of keys?
Need two keys, yeah.
Because like the whole point was we're kind of reducing stuff, and now we have two activities, two keys.
Definitely with you.
Yeah, I'd be fine if it was just like deep keys, and they worked for both.
Yeah.
And they seem to be harder to come by also. I feel like to find keys we're dropping left and right.
I definitely noticed that too. And I'm sure that might be just a thing where maybe in a week or two we'll get like more of those little bonus challenges, and I bet that will be one of the things is like more keys drop from here or wherever, but that'd be my guess. But yeah, you're right. I did not. I think the only deep dive key I got was when I completed the dungeon. I just dropped from the dungeon. Which was kind of weird because that's the only one I've seen. Which was interesting.
I've gotten one deep dive key and two salvage keys.
I've gotten more. I've gotten more salvage keys because there are also some of those in the season pass. That's I think
got it. Yeah.
So
like you, I have not played like a ton, but I've played a little bit every day this week, so I feel good about stuff. I like the that this is like, hey, exotic catch-up season, especially considering obviously exotic focusing, which we'll talk about, is borked at the beginning and wasted exotic ciphers. Bummed, but stuff happens, right? I haven't tried since because I haven't gotten an engram since, but I appreciate that that's there, and there's a bunch of exotic quests. That was a legendary shard farm that's gone already. Of course, people are upset, but who cares what they think?
Yeah.
But I like that, there's a lot of stuff for, the many new people or returning people that came in at Lightfall to use this season as they're like, okay, let me get some of those goodies, like some of the exotics that I want to mess around with.
Sure.
Have been in the game forever, and you can get them now.
Yeah. And since we're not leveling up we're not increasing our power level, they've also gone the extra step and made like a bunch of the pinnacle rewards for certain activities. Just you get an exotic engram, so you can just go get an exotic. So like literally, it's like play 3 Crucible matches a week, and you get just an exotic weapon or exotic engram that you can then go either just open at Rahul or focus into something. So like I do like that. It definitely does feel like it is just like you said, like it feels already feeling the vibe of like this is like a catch up season overall until they probably maybe next season in August, when we know now the season wraps up in August. We will have another showcase in August, which we'll talk more about how we learned about that. And then either that season or maybe the season right before Final Shape will maybe be like, hey, here's the new Power 2.0 or whatever it's going to be, right? That's like find out what it actually will be called. But what they will, I really do imagine there will still be some kind of carrot treadmill chase to leveling up your character in some way to get like some kind of power. It'll just not be what we're used to, where we're getting random armor drops or random weapon drops to like infuse to things to boost up. If I were to just like throw out a complete random guess for that because I was thinking about it and just looking at like, thinking back on like the last season of it in Guardian ranks and how Guardian ranks work, where it's like a lot of it is tied to like, hey, do this activity for this rank and you're increasing ranks. I think it'll be something like that, where it'll be like, hey, doing like higher tier content will get you like a overall power bump of this for like completing a dungeon for maybe the first time, or maybe like for the week, or like doing a raid for the week, or doing like certain activities. Certain higher tier activities will get you like extra power faster, but then if you're just doing like your weekly stuff, like running Vanguard strikes or Crucible matches, you'll get like a certain power for the week, and then that'll like once you have done a certain amount of that stuff in a week, you'll get like some kind of bonus. Like basically like it will be that. I think that's how maybe it'll work. If I were to just throw out something where it'll be more it'll be more activity, like just doing the activities instead of just complete random, up to RNG drops. Because that's just how I get. That's like that would just make sense to me, because that then ties into how they're thinking about Guardian ranks, where they want it to be always current with like the stuff that we're doing each season, where it's like you're still getting the artifact and leveling up an artifact each season to get the things and like starting that over. But then you're also doing the new the new dungeon for the season. You want to do the new dungeon to like get up to these higher ranks, and then like completing it or doing a master and then soloing it, like to get just like master these activities. And like I feel like it would just tie into that, right? Of just doing like, oh well, I'm already trying to get up to this Guardian rank, so I'm going to be doing the new dungeon because it's the new activity for the season. So like, let me just run the dungeon to get the rewards, but also it is getting me this power bump, and then it'll make it easier to run each week because I'm powering up and reaching the associated power to whatever that is by running it every week and stuff.
Yeah, so my only concern with something like that is like forcing people to do like 5 strikes a week in order to then run master content, right? Like, that could be weird.
Yeah, that could definitely not be great
it's in that like the criticisms of Bungie is farming playtime idea.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know some people are more upset about that than others, certainly, but.
Right.
It's not that much of a problem in the way the system is now, because, we came into this season 18-10 and we're good. So like we're just chilling.
Exactly.
It was nice though, like being able to, that day 2 on Wednesday, to like go right to the Lost Sector and just get it done. And I got my helmet, the new Warlock helmet,
the long boy helmet,
the bonk, the flattened faced helmet. First run. 1 legendary run, and I was in and out, done, good to go. And I got a pretty good roll, feeling good about it. And I really like that exotic. I'm not I didn't necessarily look into the Hunter and Titan ones.
The Titan one seems really interesting. I think it's definitely more for PvP. But I still think it could be have its cool uses for for PvE. The Warlock, the Hunter one, I've heard, not really specific, but I'm surprised you were. Because it is absolutely it's a glaive exotic, like it's straight up. It's like you when you have this on, your glaives are like doing better. I think it makes like your projectile shots do more damage and some other stuff. Like straight up, it is like #glaive gang exotic. But
I do like that.
But yeah, the Titan one is it turns their barricade into a like throwable like grenade, essentially. Like they call it a grenade, and like it literally says like so basically what it does is like it's you basically when you go to use your barricade, it just like it does a different animation where it pulls out like a grenade looking thing and like punches it, and then it just becomes like your grenade option, and then it literally says like in the corner, it says like baronade is what it says, like as like the thing as you have it, and you basically then have a like your grenade. For the duration of your cooldown, your barricade cooldown, you basically just have a grenade you can throw, and when you throw it, it deploys your barricade. And that procs all the different things barricades can do. So if you have like a strand one, and then you throw it, it'll like make it'll throw the barricade, and it'll make the strand thing still shoot out wherever you drop it. And the same with the the void one as well. Like if you just throw it somewhere, it'll just come out and whatever's nearby will get a void over shield. So it has a lot of uses. I was already seeing PvP people like just like when I was scrolling. A lot of times I get Destiny stuff a lot through TikToks now, where it's like a little TikTok where somebody's like this thing's nuts, and just some person in PvP like showing the uses cases for it and why it's pretty crazy. It's like, oh, I can throw it down this lane, further down this lane, and then create like more space in this thing and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, okay,
that's
yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
that's actually really cool.
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea. And I see like the use case even like using on like a void subclass in PvE and just like hurling a void thing into like your buddies in a battle or something and just giving everybody void over shields and throwing a barricade down where you need it. And you can do it, and it does it with both. Like so, if you have like the whatever barricade type you choose, it'll still be that barricade type. So cool. You can have like the lower one or the higher one. It really just makes it like a throwable grenade when you activate it.
That's sick. I wish I kind of had that for healing rifts. That would be a cool idea as well.
Yeah, just like huck your healing rift somewhere or an empire rift. Yeah, for sure.
As far as like the seasonal story, we got the opening mission and then like a follow-up mission that is converted into the deep dives. Okay. New voice actor coming to the game. We got Zivu Arath is voiced.
That was pretty surprising, right? Just like this, you're like minutes into this first mission, and then just all caps, subtitles comes up, and just Zivu Arath is just yelling at you, and you're just like, wait, what the hell? Because it just comes out of nowhere, and it was cool.
I love that all everything that she says is all caps always.
Yeah, it's just It's
Kimberly Brooks is the voice actress, or Kimberly D. Brooks, sometimes credited as. I recognize her as like Ashley from Mass Effect.
Nice, cool.
Which is cool. Definitely like a very good performance. Very different for her, and very good. Like
very like a bravado to it. That's like this is what you expect to hear from like a little bit from the war god as it were. So
and there's more of her voice acting in like the dungeon that we'll talk about. So it's really cool to, sometimes we get those a late stage, like Saint 14, when he kind of came into this story of like, he's a lore character that now is a character. And sometimes it's like a little bit of a divergence of like, okay, now that we're kind of establishing this character in media, in like the actual space, it maybe feels different than like how we've imagined them up until this point. I think Osiris is honestly the better example of this. I know a lot of people kind of were weird about Osiris when he was finally first introduced physically in the Curse of Osiris expansion, which, maybe there were other things going on.
I think Curse of Osiris was like, not necessarily Osiris, but like I know like Curse of Osiris as an expansion was just seen as pretty lackluster. For sure.
So it's cool that we're getting more of her character and a little bit of her perspective on things, and it all feels good, right? It all feels really kind of like authentic to what I would imagine her to be like.
Yeah, definitely. I have to definitely go. I definitely want to go back into the dungeon and get more of those memory things, because when I did it, we did it completely blind for our group. So we only end up finding a single one of those memories. So I'm sure there's a lot of cool stuff, because obviously we both know where the dungeon goes at the end and the implications of it all. And it's like, I'm sure there's a lot of really interesting stuff in those memory things regarding that. So I'm stoked to like see a lot of that stuff. But it was just cool to have that. Yeah. The opening story mission, just be like her just yelling, chanting,
screaming at you
and just summoning force, and then being back on Titan is cool. Like again, I talked about it a bunch already, but like Titan was always one of my favorite locations in Destiny 2 vanilla. That was sunset, and now it's like back, and like it's like still pretty same. Like it's not like what we were expecting. A lot of people were expecting, where I think they wanted not necessarily wanted, but it's kind of we're guessing at it being like the destination is back as it was, but now you're doing like new things in it. Now it is like it is pretty much that main 6-player activity, and the dungeon also takes place there. And the deep dives were now, but now it's like, slightly modified versions of those areas. Like I think there is one particular area that was from the Savathun Song Strike is now just one of those big arenas you're fighting in rather than like an area you're able to fully explore, which that's fine. Like I think that works well enough because that activity end of the day was like fine to me. It's one of those, it's pretty by the books, I would say 6-player activity. Not necessarily bad, but it's it's definitely did feel like, okay, yep, Destiny. We're we're grabbing these things and dunking them in this thing, or we're shooting a lot of dudes, or we're defending a thing, and you're moving from
there's not enough
space
dudes
to
to
space.
kill.
Yeah, definitely. Like once you know like where the enemies specifically come from, you can just kind of everyone just kind of sits in those areas and kills things, and you can just kind of wander around and do whatever.
I appreciate that there are 2 maps to salvage.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize until like a couple days into the season where I like loaded into the other one. I was like, oh, that's nice.
So it's like a different, a little bit of a different area for sure. It's cool.
Yeah, I think overall, pretty good first impression. The thing I will say that I am the most critical of is going to be that new aspect quest that we had hyped up pretty high,
Yeah.
And I think it's fine. Like the setup of it is kind of just busy work. The dialogue is interesting. We get to the mission, and then it's like, okay, well, this is going to be another week to week thing. Yeah. Where it kind of felt like it was going to be everything all up front. Or
it would
have
been nice to have a little bit more there at the top, but it definitely was just like, I definitely had that moment, not like when you just play through, you're just like, that was it.
Yeah.
But then I think they did elaborate, like, oh yeah, it is like it will be like a weekly thing. So I don't know if it's going to be like multiple missions, like, almost like a seasonal story thing, or is it going to be like, we're just kind of going back to that same spot and we're just going to fight something again and then, get a little bit more dialogue from there, or like, I guess we'll see what it is, if what it ends up being. But like if it does end up being like basically we have 2 seasonal stories going at the same time, that'd be kind of cool.
Definitely.
But we'll just have to still wait and see. Again, it's only week 1, so we haven't really seen where everything's going. It seems like but overall, positive first impression, at least from the story stuff for sure.
Yeah, I'm interested in the founding of Neomuna. I appreciate them like talking through the revelations that we get throughout the raid and stuff, and it's like kind of firmly establishing canon and stuff, as opposed to just like delegating it to background dialogue or a lore book or something. I want them to continue to establish things through spoken dialogue with Osiris and Nimbus and whatever, and then being like, yeah, it seems like Savathun took the veil from Nezarec and brought it here and then led people here. It's like, okay, these were the assumptions that we had made, but now it's kind of firmly established,
firmly planted.
So I bummed because they gave us the impression that it was going to be kind of everything, and it is going to be a little bit more of a slow drip, but I appreciate just getting the aspect was nice and easy, and we got it.
Yeah, and I would say, as somebody who plays on multiple characters, you just have once you do it that one time, you can then just like go to the strand place and get the aspect from the other characters right away. You don't have to run through the whole thing again, which was nice. But how do you feel? I'm assuming have you messed around with that Warlock one at all a little bit? I actually I played a little bit with it, and I actually do like it. I think I'm gonna stick with it because the ones I'm going with are like the ones that like modify your grenade, and now that new one, just because it is kind of nice to just have like a quick it's almost like a quick panic tangle of just like, oh shit, and just throw at a group of dudes and you can just string them all up. Like that was definitely pretty helpful. I used it actually when I ran to the dungeon. I was on my Strand Warlock, and it was actually pretty useful in some of those scenarios where there's just a crap ton of ads. And you need to kind of, have that moment to like focus on something, and you can just kind of, lock them all up. It was nice.
Totally. And especially if you're like leaning hard into threadlings gaining the ability to unravel or sever. I think it's unravel targets means like any target you're hitting with Tangle at any point could be a tangle. So like that tangle cooldown, it's like, right as soon as it's over, you got another one up. And I like that. I like that, I'm spreading my little babies, my minions everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not huge on like, I like shooting and destroying the tangles more than I like grabbing and throwing them. Cause grabbing it is going to, like, if you have killing tally or anything like that, it's going to like void out those perks active. Which is always a bummer. But, as long as you keep that in mind, I appreciate the access to suspension outside of the grenade and the like Weaver's Trance and stuff. So, yeah, I like it. I mentioned, I think it was last week, how I'm not huge on Rift-based aspects.
Yeah.
My Rift is more of like my safety net and stuff like that. But yeah, I also want to give a shout out to the new and updated mods. I've used all of them. I brought this up in our like Destiny group that we talk stuff with. Like the Lucent Blade mod, I believe, has been updated so that it charges glaive shields faster when you have it equipped. I don't remember that being part of the text last season.
Yeah, I don't think it was. Yeah.
So that seems like a new thing, and that's really, really cool. So it has an effect on sword charge time and your glaive shield charge. Basically, any projectile will give you more shield energy than before. For things like Vexcalibur, that has like a big pool of shield energy, but it drains quickly. That's super useful. And we got a new archetype of glaive from the dungeon that has more shield energy, the rapid fire glaive, which
cool. I was curious what made it rapid fire.
It shoots faster for sure.
Right. Nice.
And it has bigger. It's a 6 mag default instead of 5 or 4.
Okay.
And yeah, it shoots faster, and it seems like the shield energy drains. It's got more of a pool of energy there, which makes sense because like the high impact glaive, like Kelgrath, shield energy drains much faster because it hits a lot harder.
Right.
So it's cool to start seeing those delineations with glaive archetypes. Not as maybe much of a difference. Like I was hoping maybe the melee attack would be faster or something like that.
Sure.
But also that opens a dangerous can of worms. So I get it. But yeah, that and I built this new solar build with Phoenix Dive built around the whole. When you use your class ability, you suck in orbs. And it's a very fun idea of like, getting up in the air, using heat rises, and doing that whole loop of like diving down and scorching stuff. But now I'm shooting rockets, getting multi-kills, dropping orbs everywhere. I Phoenix Dive into a pool of orbs, and I'm healing myself from the Phoenix Dive, sucking in all the orbs, and potentially getting grenade energy, healing myself, whatever, from all that.
Nice.
And then scorching enemies, which recharges your class ability faster than getting back up in the air. They've, at least with that, I'm sure Hunter Dodge is very fun.
I have to try it because I really have not tried out the two mods because I noticed the one in particular, the one where it's like grab a charge and you get charge is on the like slot. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, I'm always going to want to use surge mods over this. Like I don't need this. I don't need. There's so many orbs around. I don't need to use this over. Like having an elemental thing. So that was kind of a bummer. But I have not tried the orb one. Still does sound really good in certain scenarios. So I do want to try that one.
That's on the class item, so it's in a good spot to
that is much better. Yeah,
take advantage of it. And I found just using one stack, I was worried that it would be a pretty like if you're using Rift, it would just be like the Rift circle, but it does like a blast of light outward that will grab orbs. It doesn't like the orbs don't like fly into you. You just get them.
Yeah,
they just disappear
like, immediately. Procs it.
Cool. But it's a really cool idea for a mod, and it's really fun to pair with something like Phoenix Dive. I'm curious. Again, I think Hunter is going to have the most fun with taking advantage of like dodging back and forth and grabbing groups of orbs.
I definitely plan to finally make a star. That's definitely like a big thing in this season in general. Is I'm probably going to make a lot more builds to save up just to like do that since I have the time and not have to worry about like leveling up. So I definitely want to do like specifically like a Star Eater scales like build finally, and just to have have it be like, because I usually the builds I tend to make are like specific for like, so I have my Void hunter build and my strand hunter and like all the different classes, but I would make like overall, like I could use this on any class kind of builds, and that's why I was could probably do Star Eater, so I could use it on like, I could use this on Arc or Solar or this, depending on, just kind of have that kind of more quick swapping around if I want it.
Yeah.
But I do want to try that too. I also saw that like with a lot of the super buffs, which I've not tried too many out, but I did see that it looks like Dawn Chorus and the Blades is looking pretty strong again. So that's exciting to see.
I've been like slowly trying out the retouched exotics. I've only been able to do a couple.
Yeah, I haven't done too much either. Yeah.
I have them all on my character, so I'm excited to try them. The only one I've unfortunately, disappointingly been able to try is Prometheum Spur. Really want that exotic to work, but just right now, the loop of like drop your rift and then have to kill enemies to recharge it really quickly, so that way you can get a kill to drop the healing empowering rift. Just like getting that to happen is not as easy as I feel like it should be, especially when you compare it to pre-nerf like Starfire, where like one grenade kill gets you your empowering rift like immediately, or not even grenade kill, just damage.
Right.
I don't know how that is now. I haven't tried it yet. But
I still saw some videos of people still using it like relatively effectively for like damage, but like it definitely, I don't think it is.
It's more a neutral game versus DPS
as
now.
Potent as it was for sure. And yeah, of course, they did the ultimate Bungie trick of putting out an amazing looking ornament as soon as they nerf it.
Yep.
With the meta, because they've done it with a couple things. The other notable one I remember though is they did it with Anarchy. Like right when they nerfed Anarchy, they finally put out like an ornament for it. I think they ended up putting out two like in the same season, because it was like they put out a new one for the season, and then I think like there was like a Dawning or whatever. They put out like another ornament for it. So there's like two ornaments for it. In the season, it basically got nerfed. So I remember that.
And Heart of Inmost Light Armor. I think it was like,
yeah, you're right. Yeah, that
the
too.
season before it got nerfed, but then it got nerfed right after it got a nice ornament.
Yeah.
But I do really like that ornament, and I will probably be getting it. So
it's amazing. It's an amazing ornament, for sure. And I would say in general, I would say a little bit of a criticism I have of the season, and this is something that has come up in general with Destiny and the whole discourse around reissue and reusing weapons and things like that. It didn't bother me as much with Lightfall and the Season of Defiance, even though there definitely was some of that. But this particular season, I definitely was a little disappointed just with how much that is happening this season. And then you compare that with like, there's like the Eververse store is like an absolute banger of an Eververse store this season. Like there's like, even when there's obviously the PlayStation crossover stuff, which they teased right before out, but now they're out, and there's outfits for each thing. So there's like Kratos for the Titans. There's the Ghost of Tsushima kind of samurai looking armor for Warlocks, and then the Horizon armor for Hunters. All looks incredible. There's cool finishers for that. There's a freaking Ratchet and Clank emote, which I bought almost immediately just because it's dumb and silly. You literally just do like the getting a gold bolt like victory animation as Clank, and it's fun. There's Last of Us like inspired stuff.
Ghost Shell.
There's a Ghost Shell and ships, and apparently I saw like if you take the Ghost Shell out, it makes clicker noises. Like a lot of really like impressive stuff. Like they did finishers that are all themed around the characters. There's like a finisher where you straight up pull out Kratos blades and do a big slam and stuff. It's like it's all really cool, but it's also pretty expensive. Pretty expensive for as nice as it all looks. There's tons of cool ornaments as well. Like you said, there's an ornament for the Starfire Protocol. There's cool there's cool like when you it's like a legendary where you like match it with an ornament for an exotic.
Yeah.
So there's a Titan one that matches with that Taken looking Heart of Inmost Light ornament that are like big gauntlets that like have that same Taken look that match with that, and they like do different glows and stuff when you like pair them together, and it's cool. It's all, there's a freaking one thing that stood to me that was like dumb and slow that I really liked, and granted some of these will be for Bright Dust, and at the end of the day all of it's like optional stuff. It's all cosmetic stuff, but it's just kind of like puts a little bit more of a glaring note when I go to like try and focus new weapons for the season, and it's like, oh, here's these Taken guns look cool, but they're also just like reskinned of these Gambit guns that were in the game from a couple years ago, and also you can just go get those Gambit guns as well, and those are like the two main sets of guns for the season. The dungeon weapons are kind of also reskins a little bit as well. Like a couple of them are new. I think there's like one or two new ones, but then like the SMG and I think the grenade launcher you can get from those are just like the same models they've had for other weapons. Then there's obviously the reprised Last Wish guns, which that's awesome, and they all look really great, and they're craftable. I definitely go get them, but it's like those are the weapons to chase for the season, and they're all pretty much just old weapons with those perks. And we've now had 2 seasons in a row and an expansion with this, and it's just kind of like, okay, that's what's going on, because we went from like season after season of having like new original guns that looked really nice, and they also had like cool stuff, but now we're clearly like, I think it falls in line with the kind of discussion with Lightfall of like, clearly there was some kind of shift that happened internally in Bungie to like now with we're getting this like post Lightfall kind of campaign mission that's explaining more of the story from that expansion, and we got a hand cannon from that, which we didn't mention. Like there's a hand cannon you get from that, looks really cool, and was in the promotional key art for Lightfall originally, that so clearly was supposed to be involved with the original release, but then kind of got shifted around. There's all kinds of and then we kind of got the reissued weapons for Lightfall again. So it's like clearly like a bunch of stuff happened, and at the end of the day, it is what it is. And I'll I'll still grind out some of these weapons and get what's thing, but it's just like kind of noticeable more than ever with this season for me. Just seeing like that kind of stuff, and seeing the banger Eververse that is like all full of like some of the most expensive stuff they put in the Eververse, on top of a whole increasing prices of the season or whatever, and adding extra purchases of silver that are like, here's the $100 best value silver purchase you can now get that they didn't have before. So it's just I did not
see that. Yeah.
So I get it. It is at the end of the day, video games is a business, baby. They got to make their money. They are, they revealed a brand new video game that Bungie is finally developing, which we'll talk about a little bit in a minute here. But so I get it. That like ultimately, right now, Destiny is single-handedly funding like its development and other video game development. So I know they got to make their money and figure out how to pay their devs. So I get it. But it's as ultimately as a player of the video game, it is just a little disappointing to see.
So. I definitely felt that as well. Looking at the guns, some of them seem cool. Like there's a rapid fire strand pulse rifle. I'm pretty excited about. That can get like Headseeker and like Hatchling and stuff. And there's like, I know people are excited that Spare Rations is back.
Yep.
I don't care, but
it didn't bother me. I got a drop. I actually did already get a random drop of that, and I was like, oh, cool, and then deleted it.
And they're doing that thing where like all the Taken weapons, which are like the season weapons with the seasonal thing, are the craftable ones, and then all the reissued Gambit Reckoning ones, they're Reckoning weapons, I guess. Did not play Reckoning really. Those are not craftable, but there's a lot of them. And they're all like,
it's weird.
Sometimes they're different archetypes and stuff. Like the Taken version of Spare Rations is like a 120.
Yeah, it's void. So like they're technically different weapons, but they're still like the same models, but just with like some cool Taken effects on it. It would have softened the blow for me a little bit if they also made that Taken effect like a thing we could apply to armor again. Because I know that was a thing in Destiny 1. I didn't really play Destiny 1, but I knew that was like a thing you could get in that original game, was like making your Guardian look like a Taken or whatever. But
I think that was like the hard mode reward for King's Fall, I think was like how you could get that, or Crota's End, one of those two. I mean, like my feeling when I looked at the weapons, like I'm always like, in past seasons, I was like really stoked. Like Season of the Risen has like some really banger weapons I still use. And Season of the Haunted obviously had stuff like Hollow Denial, which has like weirdly become one of my most used guns recently.
Surprisingly, yeah.
And Mida mini tool or Callus mini tool. But yeah, and like even going back to stuff like Splicer has like some of my favorite guns as well.
Yep.
Those pre-origin perks and stuff. Looking at the seasonal weapons, I didn't like get that excitement that I usually do when I look at new weapons.
I'm right there with you. Like I definitely have not sat down and looked at every single gun and looked at every single like perk pool, to be fair.
Me either.
But at the same time, like, yes, like you see just them like laid out to you and you're just like, okay, they have like the taken effect. And like they're like that's kind of cool, but it's like here's like a hand cannon and some whatever. But then you just get like the same exact set of weapons, which are themed after the original ones. So like most of them are probably going to be a little bit better in terms of because they have those original classic perk rolls and they were to go for it. That's probably why they didn't make them craftable. Like it's they're still figuring out that balance, and I don't know. I personally do not like the approach to them moving slowly away from craftable, making more weapons available to be crafted. Like I still think I get that they don't, I think they're trying to combat the, problems with classic Destiny 2 where there was like these god weapons that people could get, and they were the most effective weapons in the game, and like defined the meta, and were you'd have months of like being like, oh they're just using the shotgun and whatever, or mountaintop recluse, whatever and I think they're still like trying to fight that philosophy of having like these super standout weapons, but I think in doing that combat and making things craftable, they've kind of made the weapons feel a little bit more lukewarm.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's just how I've felt so far this year about, even back in Defiance and with Lightfall, like those weapons you could get from there were like, some of them look cool, even though they are kind of reskinned weapons, but like none of them like were like, whoa, like we had that idea of like, whoa, here's a grenade launcher with Volt Shot, and then you used, you're just like, okay, this actually wasn't as
it's like
crazy as I thought it was. I used the stasis bow a little bit just because it was overload bows, and it was nice to have a primary bow, but like realistically I just ended up using Wish Ender more than that thing anyway. So I'm getting the feeling of that as well. Like I might end up really liking that Strand Pulse because I like pulse rifles, but it's still to have to see and get those kind of things unlocked to truly see. But
it's a give and take, like you said. Like they're experimenting, I can tell. And like you said, I think they are trying to like not make as many power creepy weapons.
Yeah.
But like the last time I was like really excited about a set of guns was King's Fall.
Right.
And I will say the Ron weapons, the Rooted Nightmares guns.
Yeah, the Ron.
Are very great.
There's definitely some great Ron weapons. Of course, Rufus. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Rufus.
Weapon. Some of these dungeon weapons, even though I did say they are, are like kind of reskinned a little bit. They do seem like they have some pretty strong rolls. Like I did not see, like I got a couple drops of the SMG and it did not have great rolls, but then I did see people saying it can get demo and incandescent, and that does sound pretty good.
I got that roll.
That does sound pretty good. That sounds pretty good because the ones I got were all like, this just seems like some PvP ass rolls, and I'm good. I just hucked those into the trash. But
yeah, I got like there's like a new perk that is like when you get kills with other weapons, it like activates something on this weapon that when you get kills with this weapon, it refills the mag on kill.
Okay.
I forget what it's called. And I got that plus target lock, which sounds cool.
Nice.
On the SMG, and then I got demo incandescent. I'm like, ooh, my Healy Warlock build is gonna get really fun.
That sounds really strong on that for sure. I heard like the rocket seems like it can be pretty strong because it can get it also like the updated version of the Last Wish can get bait and switch and some other perks on it. So that sounds pretty decent.
Ren, who I ran, our friend that we did the campaign with, I ran the dungeon. He got the rocket with bait and switch, which is
nice. Yeah,
which is very cool.
That seems like it'll be pretty good for sure. And I think you can get similar perks where it puts like a whole bunch of extra rockets in the mag. That seems like those two rocket launchers will definitely probably end up being very good. The one from the raid, the updated Last Wish one, and that
Apex Predator,
that dungeon one. probably be pretty good, but then like, everything else just kind of seems like,
Yeah, I'm excited to get Last Wish guns crafted.
Yeah.
I think also like generally like every season going into Lightfall, I had gotten all the crafted weapons except for the Epicurean from Duality, which I may never get those last two red borders. We'll see. It just feels impossible. And then post Lightfall, like because partly those Lightfall like Neomuna guns are just so hard to get, and they like nerfed the exotic patrols. Don't like drop them as much apparently. I haven't like tried that. Apparently public events are what they want you to do to get more red borders of those, which seems like a bummer. I don't have any of those crafted, except for the pulse rifle, which is an aggressive that I don't really love.
I think I only ended up getting lucky with a few of them because I play multiple characters, and when you replayed like story stuff on multiple characters, it gave you multiple red borders. So I think I got a couple of them, but the only one I wanted would have been the arc pulse rifle, and I haven't gotten that because it's,
the one I want is the arc fusion rifle.
Because it's a pain in the ass to get those to drop. So it's like I would like to have that crafted, but like since it's a pain in the ass, like I won't bother, and I'll just use the other stuff. And it's always that weird thing of just like they have not found that sweet spot. They've struggled to find the sweet spot of like finding the right places to like to make those craftable weapons feel worthwhile again. Because like I agree with you, like they have not felt the crafted guns so far from these past few seasons have not felt as good and as worthwhile as some of the ones previously. Like even from like Season of the Seraph, there was like a bunch of cool crafted weapons to go after, and they have not been really felt like they've been necessary. So far.
We could go on and on. Like, I love Excalibur. When you get the email from Bungie about like your most used exotics from Season of Defiance, Excalibur was on my list,
nice.
Which speaks to how much I love that. I do not have a catalyst for it. Not any of the three.
Neither do I.
It bothers me so much, but like I also don't really want to go do that legendary mission still. And to what we've been talking about for weeks and weeks of like, just let me get all three in one run. Like, just let me do it once.
Like that's such a stupid. I don't understand why they made that decision, especially when it's like you had that exotic mission right before that Revision 0, and you can literally do that with Revision 0. So like,
which I did. I did with a friend. Like, they hadn't done the legendary version, and they got in Revision 0, and I was like, hey, in this one run, we're going to be able to get you all 4 catalysts. And we got her all 4 catalysts, and I was like, great, cool. This is awesome, and how it should be. And Revision 0 is great. So like, shout out to that. Like, a good example of that. It seems like there could be another exotic mission this season. Because there's there's a hidden exotic in the exotics menu.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't know that.
It's in the kinetic slot. I thought it was going to be the dungeon one, but then the dungeon one showed up in there. As well. So it's like there's something unknown in there, which is cool. I'm excited, but I just hope we even. It's just we're in a weird growing pain spot. I don't want to sound like too negative because I am generally having fun and it's chill, right? Like
At the end of the day,
I don't feel the need to rush. Anything.
This is like the one criticism I would ultimately throw at it, and that's like, and it's not necessarily like a thing of, like you said, it's not really a thing of like this season. It's been kind of like overarching for this like a little while since probably since Lightfall, really. So that would say that would be my pain point right now. But like other than that, like story stuff, cool in the season so far.
Awesome. I love it. I love going back to Titan, like you said. I love the aesthetic, especially the dungeon is incredible.
Yes,
and the guns there.
Definitely talk about the dungeon now because it is. I would say it's easily top 3, if not like the best dungeon they've done. It's great visually. It's amazing. Again, they like went all out with like the Season of the Deep, you go deep down, like, and that's like you do kind of the opening sequence, which is like immediately what you'd the thing they always teased about Titan in that one story mission where it's like, oh, here's like this weird like arcology or like, clearly like nature zone that's like being preserved here.
It's a big forest.
The opening of the dungeon is in that area finally, and you just get to go roam around, and it's like a pretty big area, surprisingly kind of big area for that first part. And it's a cool little section that you like start off in.
It's like an open encounter. Kind of reminds me of the first encounter of Pit of Heresy, the Other Hive dungeon, which is cool.
Right, yeah.
In that it's just like this, that's like more vertical, right? But this is more just like horizontal, big space that you can use your Sparrow in, and that's cool. And I like just being able to go around and explore that, and there's like secrets to find. Like I found a terminal there that I could activate, and I have no idea what it does. I assume it could be related to the exotic catalyst.
Well, so like actually that's different then, because there is the catalyst thing is related to other extra hive like statues that are in the area. Because there's ones that are like tied to the actual mission, or like the objective rather for that encounter. But there are other one of those like around the arena that you can go find, and those are related to like that's like the start of the catalyst that you like catalyst thing. And the cool thing about it, on top of that is if you're doing that part of it with other people who don't have the exotic, it increases their chances to get the exotic. Like it straight up says, like I just watched actually a video before we did this from Fallout, so shout out to Fallout for pointing this out. But like when you do that part in there, and if like somebody's doing has the new exotic and is like doing that catalyst quest, and you start it, it'll straight up just say like it'll pop up in that little feed. It says like you have increased chance to get this exotic. And I'm assuming it's just for like, it's unlike the triumphs, it is probably just per that encounter per that run. But that's still really cool. Like it straight just pops up a thing that just says this increases your chances for like helping other people get that thing. Because that's I'm sure that's like a thing, right? Like I remember many times we would wait for everybody else to get it. Like, oh, we have enough people get this exotic, let's all do it together. Now it makes more sense to like, even if you don't necessarily have it, you can increase your chance to get the exotic itself just by running it by running it and helping people do it. That's really
awesome.
Really cool idea. Really cool way to do that. For sure.
And like when you select the dungeon, it's in the Helm, right? It'll tell you what your buff rate of getting the exotic is,
really
which is cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And the exotic is like really cool.
I watched somebody use it as a strand trace rifle, as I'm stoked that they did a strand trace rifle. I'm sure they'll make a legendary one someday, but it seems really cool because it's straight up like you shoot you can shoot your allies and give them woven mail.
And it gives you woven mail.
And it gives you woven mail as well. And then the catalyst makes it so you can make grapple points. So you can it just has like an alt fire, and you just shoot it and just shoots out of like it looks like a grenade, and it just goes punk and just makes a grapple point in the air. It's super cool.
So cool. And you can use that woven mail on other classes, right? If you're running Solar Warlock, you can get woven mail and play like a super Healy support, which is exactly what I'm planning to do. And that's so cool. I think you can only make the grapple points if you're on your Strand subclass. But that obviously requires the catalyst. But man, like what a cool idea. Especially with the artifact mods this season. That's like when you get woven mail, you get unraveling rounds, and you can get it so unraveling rounds do more damage, or unraveling does more damage. So there's definitely like a really cool loop
synergy this season for sure.
Yeah, really neat. Love that.
Yeah, really cool. I definitely want that. I want that exotic, and then also the armor. The armor is holy crap. They made the Lucent Hive themed armor, which everybody thought like, the Witch Queen raid's got to have this kind of armor, right? Because that makes like sense. Like that's got to have that armmer, but they didn't do it. And the armor from the pyramid ship from that raid is still really cool. But definitely something I wanted was like Lucent Hive themed armor, and they finally did it for this dungeon. It's super great.
It's a Lucent Hive dungeon, right? It's cool to have Hive Guardians and stuff back.
I need to know your team's reaction to taking out a boss and seeing the Hive ghost appear. Did you like have that moment where it's like, did you realize that was going to happen, or did you just
like that first boss where it's a fun fact because I just watched that bite video about the dungeon. that dude, that like Ekthar, I think is his name, the first boss. That's the fucking guy Oryx is talking to in the Taken King cutscene from way back when, where Oryx is like, or like he comes up, he's like, Lord Oryx is like talking some dumb shit. That's the dude.
Interesting. Wow.
He's that dude. He was known as the Sword of Oryx, and in this dungeon, he is the shield of Savathûn. Wow. And the shield is his Titan shield as a resurrected guardian.
Wow.
Like, really great detail there.
Yeah,
love that.
That's pretty wild. Yeah.
Definitely like shout out to this dungeon for so many things. But like that moment when you go in the water, like right before that encounter, and then he's underwater in his super, like coming after your ass. We all freaked out.
Yep. Definitely happened with this too, where like somebody was a little bit ahead, but we just see something goes water and he just goes, something's here with me. This is bad, and we caught up and we're just like, oh yeah, this fucking guy, holy shit. But
he hit me with suppressors enough for me to know that I needed to kill his ghost. I'll say that much.
We definitely, with our group, we definitely like it did not immediately click with us. Like we obviously knew that we were fighting Hive and like killing the ghost in the other part, but like we just did not think the full on boss would do it. I guess I think it was like this, not something we were not thinking about because we were focused on like we did it completely blind, so we were like figuring out mechanics and things. So we definitely had that moment of just like we took out the boss and we were just sitting there going like, yeah, let's go, we did it. Let's get it, and then all of a sudden I just go ghost because I just saw it because I was just like we were just like running around like waiting for the chest to spawn in, and I just see it. I just yelled it while we were like celebrating, and I just quickly like this, and then we just all realized like, oh, okay, that probably would have been really bad. Oh shit, let's.
I wonder if he comes back with full health. That'd be so awesome.
It's not full health, but it's like a chunk. So you essentially would probably have to do like a full
damage phase,
full another phase basically, and then the final boss has that too, because she has a ghost as well as a big like hive witch, but yeah, tons of incredible vistas because like you said, you go down these like big tunnels like into this deep into the sea. It's go like very deep.
We haven't talked too much about there's underwater segments now, or under methane, I guess technically.
Sure.
And I love that stuff. Obviously you're popping bubbles. There's no combat underwater or anything, except for when this big scary Titan is chasing you underwater, which is very fun. And Ren and I were freaking out. Ren and I were blind when we ran it, and we were running it with Nicole, and she had done it already, but she wasn't like telling us anything before, so we were figuring that on the go.
Nice.
I will say, very proud of myself. Of the 12 collectibles, I found 9 of them.
Dang, nice.
Which was very fun, and some of them are very well hidden.
Yeah.
But yeah, the getting to that final room, I love Lucent Hive architecture. I still like the whole Savathûn's castle on her throne world is like one of my favorite locations in the whole game.
Really cool.
So a whole dungeon of that basically, plus like
mixed in with the Titan architecture. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
The Titan architecture is like so Metroid Prime. It's ridiculous. And partly because it's underwater stuff, and that's like a big part of Metroid Prime, especially Metroid Prime 2. I kept thinking of like there's this whole underwater research lab in Metroid Prime 2 that this very much evokes. And I was just so into it. And then you get to the seafloor, and there's like coral and all this like hive stuff and like weird fishy things that are like popping and bubbling, and you see Asa, the Leviathan at one point. It's huge and so scary.
I actually missed that. I didn't. I mean, the thing I was gonna call it was just like that moment when you're further down and you realize you're going into like a big like dreadnought hive ship that's like sunken into the sea. You just see this big ass light. It's just like in there, and you're just like, oh shit, we're going into this. It's
like a moment a little bit before that, I think.
Okay.
You see her like in the darkness.
Okay, interesting.
Very cool. And also, Ren and I being like huge lore nerds, like we see the Dreadnought ship that's like crashed into the ocean, and Ren's like, Titan is a moon of Saturn.
Yep.
And we started like putting the pieces together. It's like, well, there's a lot of Lucent Hive here, and we're getting the Ziva Wrath memories. Like, what is it? And then of course you get to the final room, and Oryx's corpse is just there.
Yeah, you're literally the final encounter is you just running around on Oryx's corpse, fucking like fighting Lucen Hive and this witch that is, I guess, trying to resurrect him in some way, or like forcing
with a ghost
resurrect him. Yeah, because like that's like this is the scene you walk in on is like when you first enter that arena, is just her doing this like weird conjuring. This is a ghost in Oryx's like rib cage, and you're just like,
yep,
okay, holy fucking shit, what the fuck? So incredible scene. Just walking into that. It's amazing. I definitely called that out when you guys are about to do it. I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna lose.
You're not ready for the final room.
You're not ready for this. Right. You're not ready for this fucking final room, because it even blew our minds when I did it with 2 clan members, and they're not like as big on the like Destiny lore.
But you've run Kingsfall.
Yes,
you know?
they definitely were like, oh yeah, we definitely had that moment. Like we walked in and was like, that's fucking Oryx. What the fuck? And there's a ghost in his chest. Yeah, we definitely had a really incredible moment. Yeah, and that encounter is like super fun, like figuring that out of just like, oh, we had to lure this. We were just like killing Volgar or whatever his name is like a million times, and we're just like, there has to be something with this guy. Like he just keeps showing up. Like what's going on? And then obviously you go into the different rooms and see symbols. And then once you like layer it on of like, oh, okay, you need to lure him to these, you need to like get the deep sight and then lure him to spots to like see the things, and then you have like that little like aligning
the aligning mechanic thing was like awesome. It's so like scratches my Batman Arkham Asylum itch in such a way.
It's like, we're fighting, we're using the witness to fight the witness is a joke we made in there. It's a joke our group made, because it's like the witness game. Shout out to Jonathan Blow or whatever.
That's
yes,
awesome. Very good.
Yeah, it was very fun, and then figuring out that whole thing, and then obviously it incorporating the Lucen Hive. So there's tons of like, you're just fighting all the Hive Guardians a bunch more, which is really fun. Really curious what Master mode looks like for those arenas. I'm sure where they'll figure out to add champions.
A lot of barrier knights, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
A lot of barrier knights. I did see a trick that stuff. It seems like Arbalest and Wishender will be big, because those things do one shot those shields when you do DPS. I saw like even those, like when you get the buff to destroy the shields, you can just one bang those immunity shields with those, apparently, which is really cool.
That would have helped. I was using 2 rockets, so that's much better.
I was gonna say I was using actually, surprisingly, I used a machine gun. I didn't use Thunderlord. I just used my Void machine gun the whole time. And Quicksilver Storm, so I could just make like tangles and unravel and do all that kind of stuff a bunch. So worked generally okay, but we ended up using like Div and like, I think somebody had Thunderlord, and then I was using just a general machine gun. And I still actually ended up having the most damage. I think that helped because I had the Needle Storm, like the Strand Hunt. Warlock super, because that's mainly what I did. Because we had Arc Hunter, Warlock, and then I was a Strand Warlock. That was our group.
Yeah, I ended up switching to. I started on Void, and I switched over to Solar to play support, and that helped us get through the bosses. But just fun, like that second encounter. I think it's so fun too, like going underwater and running away from the guy while you're
still just chase you,
activating the symbols, and then those spawn wizards that you have to then finish and deposit things. And there's a lot of mechanics to that final fight. Coming off of Spire the Watcher, much more simple dungeon, right? This is much more mechanic heavy and more puzzle solving.
Much more mechanic and much. I'd say I definitely enjoyed it a little bit more than Spire for sure, just because the bosses do not feel as like as annoying as that the big chicken guy. I don't know if I'm all in on soloing it, because I'm seeing people saying apparently both those bosses are not solo friendly in terms of the amount of damage you need to do them. Because I did not feel bad with the whole group of us, because again, like I said, I was using we had Div and some machine guns, and we got it in 3-4 phases. Apparently people are saying you gotta crank out some big damage to do those. So it's you're doing 8 or more phases for both bosses, and I'm like, yikes.
Yeah. So, it's definitely a more crowd control heavy fighting too, which is fun. But I appreciate in the final boss room, when you have to kind of split off and go to all the guardian rooms, like things chill out for a minute in the main room.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like how kind of spooky those underwater sections are, but like actually in those boss rooms they can be super helpful. Just be like ads don't like fuck with you when you're in there, so you can just kind of go in there and just be like,
and you get a full overshield when you go through the water,
and then you just like have that second. It's kind of interesting. You can actually use those to your advantage.
Yeah, I used it to switch. My build around.
Somebody totally did that in our run too. It's like, all right, yeah, let's try using div to do a little bit more damage. Let me go in the water and just get div and do this. Yeah, we'll be right back. It's pretty funny.
Thank God for loadouts. Still great.
But yeah, I would say definitely overall probably. I definitely want to go see more of those little like lore memory things. For sure,
they're very good.
They seem very cool.
It's probably fleshing out Xivu Wrath as a character and having it feel like not retconny, but more of like, oh, like this explains kind of like what her reaction when the Witch Queen DLC was happening and like how she felt about that. And then like how she felt when she went to Tor Bottle and how she adores Oryx, right? Like having stuff like that.
Very cool.
Just great. And the performance is phenomenal. So
yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, definitely up there now for me. Probably like easily a top 3 raid, at least maybe even number 1. Like it's just incredible stuff.
And we like anytime we get those like kind of direct follow-ups to raids or expansions or anything like that, it's always a treat, as like some kind of narrative follow-up to like, what happened to Oryx's body when we launched it off of the Dreadnought. It's cool to have an answer.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, his body's just hanging out at the bottom of the methane sea, or maybe I guess I don't know. We're gonna take it now in position. Now that'd be kind of crazy
on Earth now. So
interesting. Okay,
yeah, you should read those armor lore tabs because boy howdy is a story.
Oh, okay, cool. That's good to know. Definitely interesting. Now I guess we have Oryxes and Savathoons.
Yes, stupid. Yeah, some might say.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, Excited to hear that. Excited for those bite videos for all that stuff too.
I spent all last night reading
those stuff. That's awesome.
And also, the fucking exotic is called the Navigator, which is I just love that stuff.
Yeah, super good stuff. Definitely want to play more of that. I'm definitely itching to play more of that dungeon.
As always, it's farmable,
Yeah, it's farmable. Yep. Yeah, great. One other thing we forgot to mention about the other general activities of the season. Mm-hmm. Fishing is here. Fishing time. How much have you done of it? Have you done a little bit? Quite a bit. Yeah, I've done a little, but I've not gone crazy with it yet either. Because I definitely want to get it. I kind of want to like get max bait because you do have to get bait. And then just like sit there for like a whole day and see how much I can get because I have not gotten any of the exotic fish. It's because
me either.
You need to get like you need to have some like crazy high multiplier to like get some of that rarer stuff. But yeah, definitely digging the vibe of it. It's like it's pretty simple, but I like the whole thing of like once you get a bunch of it, you can go back to the Helm and like dunk it into like a fish tank, and you literally just have a big fish tank in this new area of the Helm. You can see the fish you catch. You can see like seasonal artifacts or like other things from previous seasons.
Old seasons
hanging out there. Yeah. And if you do like certain triumphs, it'll add more things into there. I don't know if you saw that, like completing certain triumphs. Like there's like a whole section for fishing.
I saw the fishing stuff.
Yeah, but like some of them will have like, if you complete this, it'll put like a statue from the EDZ like in the thing, or like a thing.
I didn't see that
thing from other like if you get all of the exotic fish, you get like a cannon or something weird like that.
Cool.
And it just goes into the thing. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
fun
and it's
stuff.
Like there's not enough dumb MMO shit in Destiny.
Yeah.
And it is nice to have that there because it is like you forget that it's an MMO a lot. It is kind of isolating a lot of times, but this leans into that. Like when you roll up on the EDZ and there's like 7 people just at a fishing spot.
This fishing spot.
And
it's
fun. Like, oh, hey, everybody. And you're not talking or anything, but we're all just hanging out and fishing.
Just kind of, just fishing and,
it's jolly.
Occasionally throwing some emotes out or whatever. Yeah, it's just like, it is. It's fun and simple. I'd be totally fine. Like I'm assuming this will be something that's just here for this season and for this up till final shape. But actually wouldn't mind if they just maybe just
If they
kept
kept
it.
it.
If they just kept
Yeah.
it and it's just like a fun thing you can just do from here on, and put a fish tank in the tower or something. Show off
Yeah.
your fish or whatever. It's fun thing. Again, it even gets you like rewards and stuff like that's like honestly that's like how I've gotten most of like the return to Gambit reckoning weapons is just dunking fish into that. I just got a bunch of random ones so I got spare rations and some other stuff already.
Cool.
It's just doing that, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah. They didn't have to, honestly, they didn't have to put rewards behind it, but like knowing that you can dunk exotic fish and get ascendant shards, ascendant alloys, and even exotic engrams to focus.
Yep. It's cool.
That's so cool. And it's a thing to do. Like if you're just overshooting stuff for a while, you can go fish for a bit and like actually get tangible rewards for it. And that's
something worthwhile. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Agreed for sure. But yeah, that's the good. I think overall the season we'll just have to see where it goes story wise. But there was some other pretty big news items.
It's weird, like talking about the game instead of like 40 articles.
Yes, yeah, I know, right? That's what we're used to that, right? Yeah, that's always the lead into a season is like, all right, here's like this 800 billion word article talking about the minutia of all these different changes and stuff. Look forward to that in probably July or whatever.
Yes,
we'll be back there soon enough, I'm sure. But yeah. Besides that, though, surprisingly, Bungie is a PlayStation studio, and we had a PlayStation showcase happen earlier this week. If you want to watch our live, you can see actually our full live reactions to the showcase and to the announcements we're about to talk about because Bungie did announce stuff here. Now that we know they're a Sony affiliated thing. But yeah, they announced a new video game, or like a new old video game called Marathon. Oh, I guess we'll just talk about that briefly.
Yeah, let's talk about that first. Not a lot to talk about. So.
Not a lot to talk about immediately because they revealed it. We've known Bungie in some shape or form was working on a new video game. In some shape or form. This is predominantly what they're saying is a PvP extraction shooter. So it is going to be more PvP focused. There will be some like AI controlled enemy units and stuff roaming around because it is like a thing in extraction games. If you're not familiar with those, that is like Escape from Tarkov is like, I know, like a really big one. I think there's some other, Call of Duty had like a pretty big mode in itself that is that. I want to say that's like a thing that's like a part of Warzone more so.
Yeah, it's like a spin-off mode of Warzone. I'm the most familiar with Tarkov because I know people that play it a lot.
Yeah. I think there are some other ones. I think isn't Hunt Showdown technically like in that similar vein, or is that something different?
I think it's more in like the Battle Royale vein.
Sure. Okay.
But I'm not positive.
Yeah, I'm not positive either because immediately this is not like a genre I'm super familiar with because I'm not really a big PvP gamer these days. But Bungie's
also like
Bungie's going all in on it.
Rainbow Six. What's the zombie one? That's like technically an extraction
I think that
shooter.
is called Rainbow Six Extraction. Isn't it called Extraction or something?
It might be.
Yeah,
Rainbow Six Quarantine. I don't remember.
Yeah, like I think they called it Quarantine, but then
they renamed it.
They renamed it because it literally was going to come out during COVID. We were in a pandemic, so they're like, let's change this. And then that game sure did came and went, huh?
Yep.
But yeah, they're basically using Marathon is a game Bungie made years and years ago. It was back in like the early 90s. This is like one of their first video game like series they made. And you can definitely find like if you go back and look up some of the story and like what Marathon was about. Like the video game itself was definitely just kind of like a OG Doom era style boomer shooter as is coined nowadays. It's very much of that ilk. But it had a lot more interesting stuff, like a lot of the like core story stuff from Halo games and even Destiny, where there's rampant AIs and like AIs that control different factions, and there's alien races and alien artifacts and stuff. A lot of that stuff, definitely was kind of the early proto Halo stuff that we've now kind of know and love today from those years. Like definitely kind of stems from Marathon, and now they're kind of using that backdrop, because it is not like it is set in the universe, but it's not like a sequel or like a prequel
or a reboot
or a reboot, as they've said, but it is set in that universe. So like I think it'll be like I know like Apex Legends is similar, where it's like it's technically in the Titanfall universe, and like Titanfall stuff is like adjacent, but it's not like all in on that stuff. So I'm assuming it'll be similar to that, where they will reference Marathon things. They definitely evoked, like, obviously we know it from, they did a 30th anniversary Destiny pack, and there was like that very particular alien looking robes for the Warlock. There's straight up a shot in this trailer that was just the reveal of trailer where that creature is in that game in some shape or form, which is pretty interesting. A lot of very striking visual art, as we know from a lot of years of Destiny playing. A lot of amazing art that can come out of Bungie and stuff. This game in particular had a ton of incredible stuff, where you like the scene starts and you see like caterpillars putting together like a robotic lady or something, and then there's like people in like these weird goo ink like looking areas being like shot up, and they're like bleeding blue, and it's like very, very crazy visuals and stuff. But I gotta admit, like, again, as I said, I'm not a big PvP gamer these days. I just, I respect some of those games from afar, just because I do not have the time or dedication to like play some of that stuff these days. So I don't know if this will be a game for me in the long run, but like, at the end of the day, I do enjoy some Bungie shooting in a video game. So like, I'll probably at least try it, but I don't see myself being invested in it in the way I am invested in like Destiny, let's say. But how are you feeling?
I similar, I think I definitely like to mess around with PvP stuff maybe a little bit more. But it's very difficult to get me like fully invested, like right. I'd say the most PvP I'm invested in is Destiny 2. And that is like very casual, right? Like I don't do the competitive mode. Right. I'm not like a trials player. Even if I begrudgingly try more often than I should. But I like jumping into control and getting my challenges done and trying out different builds. And I like saving guns for PvP and like, I like understanding the loops of target lock or dynamic sway plus tap the trigger, stuff like that. Like I enjoy that. But I am excited, like, it's funny because I don't really play first person shooters except for Destiny anymore. Like I've really learned that there's something about that Bungie magic, the space magic that makes it, the feel of it is just like, maybe I go and play something else and it's like, you know what, this just isn't as good as Destiny. So I'm just going to go play Destiny.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that.
Feel a little bit of that. Yeah, I definitely feel about like more recently. Like, granted, I still do enjoy it, although this is another can of worms that I won't begrudge too much. But Overwatch 2 was definitely something I wanted to like try, because I liked Overwatch back in the day in 2016, and that's still, there's still a little bit of that, but it's like also is like a very different beast, because you're playing as like so many different third person or first person rather like shooting styles. Some of them don't even shoot, and some of them do, or like very precision focused. But some of them you're like swinging a hammer or like doing not really much shooting at all. So it's like a very different thing, for sure. But I'm also with you.
There was a year where I was very into Overwatch competitively. Obviously, again on a casual level. I'm not on an esports
you're ready to jump into the Overwatch league. You were looking for the invite.
But I liked the game, like the loop of the game, the thrill of the game enough that I wanted to play the competitive mode. I liked the longer matches. I liked getting invested in a character and learning how to counter pick and do stuff like that. And I just liked it. And generally I just hate competitive things. I'm not a competitive person. I'm like the opposite.
Yeah, same. And it's like a mixture of like it's a mixture of like I do not feel that push and pull to be as invested in that competitive side, and just like seeing the people that can exist in those spaces also is like a turn off to me. I'll just totally admit that, of like there are people who just like are like super extreme about some of these things, and like, hey, if that's your thing, cool. Like, but I do not want to play a video game with you. So
yeah, bye. Exactly.
Like that's just that's how I am.
all that in mind, I'm here. I'm going to try Marathon. I really hope they have like a beta. I'm sure they will. It's Bungie.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there. I want to try. I want to, get some of our Destiny friends and squad up and give it a shot. I have listened to my good friends and once co-hosts Scott Guthier, Tony Horvath talk about Tarkov so fucking much. The last like 50 episodes of Rational Passions podcast before we ended it in 2021 was like very Tarkov heavy, I'll say. And that game's I'm sure changed in the couple of years since our show ended. So, and they'll occasionally give me updates before we do IPD&D and stuff. So I'm curious about that kind of game. There are aspects of that sound really interesting. And the Vidoc that they put out, talking about it, I really wish they'd shown some alpha gameplay. I feel like they could have gotten away with some rough stuff. It would have been fine, especially when they show us like in the square tunnels where they're beta testing abilities in Destiny. Like you could have shown us some of that weird shit in Marathon. We would have been fine with it, and people would have appreciated it. So like Bungie gun magic plus like a whole new set of guns and maybe a whole new aesthetic of guns and stuff like that.
Right.
Plus like that kind of drop in, get the weapons that you need and get out like that, the loop of that, the roguelike kind of aspect of that, all that appeals to me. And I mean, they're talking a big game with this, like the idea of like the first group to find all the artifacts on a level, potentially get to access a whole new section of a level first, and they have to finish some challenge there before it unlocks for everyone.
Right.
And so like that could lead to some really interesting Twitch streams, and like World's First was definitely mentioned multiple times.
Yeah. So it's totally understandable why they would pitch that as like a big deal. Because look at like, Destiny with its World First raid races. Those are like massive, huge like, visual, like, getting people looking at Destiny in a way that like, doesn't do it. A lot of other stuff doesn't do as much. Like, you can look at like the season launch and it was like, okay, that had like, 60 like 1,000 some people. I think I was looking at Twitch the other day when it launched. It was like, okay, it's still pretty good. But then you look at like obviously like other shooters that have like double that on just like a normal like afternoon, which can be pretty wild. But then you look at like raid race days for Destiny, and it's like they like they are like the most viewed thing that day, like by a mile, and like some like the biggest views, like millions of people are like watching on that single day. So like having some kind of thing in this game that like is a big deal. And it being more PvP focused, will bring in like, people that are way into those styles of games and bring in even more people to like look at it. So
I love the
super
ambition.
Cool idea. Yeah, it's very ambitious for sure.
And, there is like this not being a just video games industry podcast. I won't necessarily go too far off on it, but, this apparently terrible, trash, awful PlayStation showcase that we watched, according to the internet, was, full of all these live service games that Sony is apparently pushing really big. And just recently learned that like the Last of Us live service multiplayer game was delayed. And part of that was because Bungie had like given them the advice to change things, which is super interesting. And looking at all these other games, Foam Stars and whatever, and Haven's game, like Cash Money or whatever it's called. Of all of them, Bungie's got the idea to do it. I really think like the idea of Marathon is really cool, and they get it in a way that just especially you look at something even as recent as like the reveal of the Suicide Squad game. And it's like, hey, like these people are single player developers trying to make a game that, they're playing basketball in a hockey rink is how I imagine it. It's just like they don't necessarily get it, and they don't understand like the resources that go into a machine like that. Bungie does. They get it. Say what you will about recent seasons and Lightfall and disappointment just across the Destiny community. They still understand live games way better than everyone else.
They do it better than anybody in the business still.
Except for maybe like Final Fantasy 14, which is like a different beast, or WoW or things like that, So this idea is exciting, and I believe them to at least give it a much better shake than, some of these other games we saw.
And also like even if it does come out and it's not like, and it's kind of like middle of the road, I don't see Bungie being like some of these other people just be like, well, and just kind of throwing it off the side. They will probably continue to work on it and improve it in like in a actual meaningful way than a lot of other devs are able to do and would do. But yeah, you're curious to see where it is. They definitely were like also like, hey, we're kind of showing it now, and we're at least revealing this thing because that's cool. But now we're gonna go silent and see you later. They're gonna go off and like I think there was definitely rumblings a while ago. I don't remember exactly. It was a while ago. It's like a year or more ago, where we heard the term Matter going around as a project name. We don't know if this is. I don't think it's been confirmed that this is Matter. This was like the code name for that marathon. Her Matter was the code name for Marathon. We're not really sure. But we also know with that, like, that was like the whole idea of like Bungie will ship a new game before, I think it was by 2025 or whatever. So we don't know if that is this game or not, but ultimately we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah,
I would expect Final Shape to come out before this game.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of the Final Shape, there was a very, very clean transition they did, and I really did actually like that. And we were surprised in general just seeing Bungie here, but it's definitely one of those things. Like in hindsight, it made sense. Like, oh yeah, Bungie's PlayStation now, so it makes sense for them to be here in a big way. But yeah, definitely was like surprising at the moment.
And it's also worth shouting out. Great that Marathon is coming out on Xbox as well, PC as well.
Yep.
Day one, day and date. Cross save, cross play, all there. Yep. Dedicated servers. Sorry, Destiny fans. But anyway, that's great. So I'm happy Bungie is still allowed to do their thing.
Yeah, agreed. For sure. But yeah, they smoothly transitioned from like the trailer for Marathon ended, and you see like the Bungie logo, and then it straight up just like transitions into like Destiny style, like graphically behind the Bungie logo. And then it fades to black, and then we got a teaser for the Final Shape. And boy, did not expect to see this already.
Not ready for this.
We were definitely not prepared for that. Basically, we got like a minute long teaser that basically was like the teaser for the tease of a showcase at the start of next season. So basically, it's like the end of August. I think it's like August 22nd. We will get that'll be the start of the next season. What would that be? That'll be 22.
22. Yeah.
Which we don't know the name of currently. But we'll get that. We'll get the launch of that season that day, as well as the showcase showing off what the Final Shape and the future of Destiny 2. Specifically, their words. They used on their press site. They said the future of Destiny 2. So it seems like they will spill the beans on what is next after the Final Shape for Destiny a little bit here, that's very much what I want to know about. In some ways more than the Final Shape, to be fair. But that being said, boy, what a teaser. They sure dropped on us. Basically it opens with you see Ikora sitting at a campfire, and she basically is like reminiscing about, boy, I wish you were here to see all these moments that have happened over the past years. You see the Guardian like rushing at Savathun, and then a Guardian taking out Nezarec. And then you see them fighting alongside Kydal and Mithrax, against a bunch of Vex. And then she goes, yeah, I really wish you were here. And then you see through the flames Cade 6 with a repaired version of Ace of Spades that has like kind of weird glowy light coming out of it, kind of like Traveler's Chosen. And then you see him and he goes like, yeah, I wish I was there, kiddo, too, but I'm here now, wherever this is. And then it does a big opening shot, and you can see the big pink Travussy as it is. I had to get in there.
Thank you. I wasn't ready, so thank you.
But it clearly points to them being inside the Traveler, as we know the
other side of the portal.
The other side of the portal, and in some kind of weird barren,
lush paradise,
lush kind of wastelandy, but more like desert canyony area. Looks very earthy and surprisingly in an interesting way. More than I expected. I definitely expected way more like crazy psychedelic-y looking stuff after like the
Which
Ron stuff, but it's still
there could be.
it could be there. Yeah, we have no idea what that place is in any regard. Like, it didn't. Again, that was all we got was that little minute of just Cade's back apparently, and Nathan Fillion is reprising the role, which is really cool. Yeah, definitely a bit. I would say overall, people were pretty stoked about this, but I definitely saw like a mixed reaction of just like, oh, do we want Cade back? I don't know if this is right, or like, I will say personally, for my feelings on that, just to get that out before we get into speculation theory, which I'd rather talk about, but just to talk about it, I say for me personally, like, I don't mind that he's back in some form, just because the final shape is like
it's the end.
It's the end, and like kind of the big closing chapter, last hurrah for this light and dark saga for Destiny. I think this is like it makes sense to have him there for if they're essentially going to be, I feel like, be the closing moment of this saga, so they can begin a new saga, right? For Destiny. It makes sense to just have everybody there to just like close it out. That's going to be interesting with, obviously, unfortunately for Lance Reddick passing, what Zavala's role is going to be in all of this. But like, I feel like they can't have this expansion without him either. Personally, but we'll just have to see how that goes. That just is what it is at this point, right? But yeah, Cade 6 being there, like, I'm fine with it, and the fact that they got Nathan Fillion to even do it is like pretty cool. I don't expect it to be a scenario where it's like we finish this and then he's back, so to speak. And there's definitely things we see in the trailer that kind of point towards that, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think it is just going to be, he is integral to whatever the main campaign of this expansion is. Maybe he's the vendor for whatever this crazy place we're at. And maybe he's just in the expansion, and whatever it ends up being the result, if we take down the witness, maybe that closes out. Maybe we just have to destroy the traveler or something crazy like that, and then in doing that, it releases whatever is going on with that stuff. No idea, right? But
yeah, totally. It's one of those things. I'm stoked, right? Like, I love Cade. I'm not a Cade hater. I've always loved Cade. I was sad when he died. But I thought, the way they handled that, Nolan North's performance as Cade was great, and getting all those, especially like, people don't talk about it enough, but the whole quest where you find all of Cade's stashes and get all of his, goodbye messages to everyone that mattered. To him were really great. I really think, like, solemn and beautiful, and like a great send off. And there's so much mystery to his character as well. His lore book is incredible. I think Cade's great, and he is like, he was so pivotal to the Taken King campaign, and that really put him in the story in a big way. And to have him here for the end feels good. So I'm excited about it. And like you, I don't necessarily see him being around after this, but being back for one last hurrah sounds awesome. Sounds like a very Cade 6 thing to do. But yeah, I certainly a lot of questions. Certainly I love a good tease like this. It's like some Kingdom Hearts stuff for me, where it's like just enough to be like, what the fuck is going on? But also, doesn't ruin anything. Like, you could say, like, knowing that Cade died going into Forsaken was a bummer, maybe, just because, but it does happen in this first like hour of that Forsaken campaign, and then you get to the Mara stuff and the Drinking City, and it's like, oh, there was way more here that was like
a lot more,
way worth being excited about. So I don't think it ruins anything. I think it just gets you titillated, so to speak, of what is going to come next. So yeah, and it's funny, like we were just talking about the dungeon and finding Oryx's body after all these years. Destiny, for the most part, Taniks aside, is good about like letting dead characters be dead.
Right.
Even Savathun has been dead for 5 seasons now, and we know like the other shoe is going to drop there at some point, but like that span of time is significant because we're playing and doing stuff, and the story's progressing that whole time.
Right.
We've seen characters die. It's happened, and Cade is the only Guardian we have seen die in the story for the most part.
Right.
And like seeing his ghost die was big, right? Like that was like
It was
I didn't know
big,
that could happen.
yeah, that's like definitely the first thing they showed that time. They showed that, right? It's just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
wow,
And seeing him without his ghost here, right?
yeah,
Obviously important detail.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it raises a lot of interesting questions that we can segue into our little theory time of like, what does it mean for a guardian to die? Where do they go? Does something happen to that light? The subtitles of this reveal teaser very clearly say Cade 6. This is not Cade 7. I'm not expecting some Exo reboot situation.
They didn't put him into an Exo body like Rasputin somehow. And like you said, they pointed out very clearly, like they show Ikora and she still has her ghost in this alternate or like this inside traveler space. Cade 6 doesn't have a ghost with him or anything like that. He has this weird like ethereal, like it looks kind of taken, but also looks like light. Like it's hard to fully tell what kind of power is coming through him, but it's clearly like it's not as typical. When he was an Exo, he had like big yellow eyes and I think he had like blue eyes or something different. It's definitely different looking than he was. So like clearly something's going on. Like he also doesn't know what any of this is about because he says like wherever the hell this is. So like he doesn't know where he is, or how he got here. Ikora is also inside the Traveler. Like how the hell did she get there? Because like we learned pretty much at the opening of this season, like anybody who's trying to go in there now, like as a pretty as a pretty gruesome death, as we see in the opening sequence of this season. So clearly, like that's definitely like where we're going to be building to now, right? Like there's definitely going to be one of these next few seasons is going to be about like how do we get into the portal? We figured out how to get in the portal. What do we need to do? Over these, like that's I'm sure that's like by the season leading into Final Shape is like we figured out how to get in the portal. We got to do this for the season, Guardian to get this open or whatever. Like we're
I'm not surprised like at the idea that maybe Ikora is the first one that goes through. Especially knowing that people have died going through. The risks are so great that she would volunteer herself. Totally see that, or Zavala or something like that. So it's cool. It's just like I said, it raises all these fun questions to speculate about.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Where it's going to go from here. It makes me, like you said, it was a good enough tease to like make me excited for like, all right, what's this season I'm sure is going to have a good story, but like where the hell are these other two seasons?
Where are we going?
What are we going to do? What are we going to do to like get inside this now? Get inside the Traveler and all that stuff,
And it's a thing, of course, ever since day one of Destiny, like, I want to get in that ball.
Yeah. What's going on in the ball? Yeah. Let me
what's
get in
the ball? And to be fair, like this is some ethereal dimension through the Traveler, still not physically inside the Traveler. That could be another thing that we do.
True.
That could be a great setting for a raid. It's all I'm fucking saying. But
come on, Bungie, figure it out.
Yeah, it's we've always wanted to know what's on that other side, and now we have this look of it. And the first thing that stood out to me, we talked about this in our reactions. If folks want to go check that out as well. Like there is no wake of the witness, right? Assuming this is where it popped out. It didn't leave a destructive darkness wake of taken energy.
There's a bunch of pyramid ships like hanging out in this area that they're in. Yeah.
Yeah. And we know that it brought ships with it. They kind of sucked in and the witness went through and it wants to kill the Traveler to some capacity. So to end the victim, the universe makes a victim of all of us, you more than any. Right. So I'm curious what that means. If maybe there are different points, different dimensions that we access and are going through.
Yeah, different dimensions, or is like this some kind of like is that like some kind of time? There's like also like potential of like a time thing going on where like going to the like by making this portal in the Traveler, like they use it to like go in time to somewhere like maybe he's going to like where the Traveler like was like created or something. to stop it or something like that. Like we have no idea. Like it could be that, it could be like time thing or like alternate dimension or reality where there's something else going on, or like maybe this, like he used the traveler to create some, perfect, maybe that's like the witness's throne world or something crazy like that. Like he used like the traveler to like make something, and then he's using that to like do whatever. Like again, it could be all kinds of things. We just, again, it was such a vague teaser on that. It just kind of showed it to like a blank environment, sort of more or less. So it's hard to fully say like what's going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, exciting.
Not in a bad way, vague in a good way. Yeah. I don't want to know, like, I appreciated like when we saw Savathun and all the Hive Guardians and stuff and Resurrection, like it did take a little bit away from, Season of the Lost, going through all this, knowing that Savathun is just going to end up getting turned into a Guardian, right? Like, but it didn't ruin it by any means, because we got to have this great dialogue conversations with her.
Yeah.
Still think about those all the time. And similarly of like Lightfall, knowing that we're going to Neomuna. I like that this it just opened more questions, right? Like we've known since the end of Lightfall, like, hey, we're going in that thing. Yeah. We're gonna find out what's on the end of it. But then when you see it and it's like not at all what you expect, Icor's there alone, Cade's alive.
Yeah, it's like what does any of this have to do with any of it?
Yeah,
for sure.
It's really exciting, as opposed to like a scene and it's like the witnesses Ganon's castle in the background, right? Okay, crazy, whatever. I know where this is going. This was a much more enticing tease, and I hope that when we do get the showcase, obviously, if there's like a new subclass, maybe a new light subclass, also potentially, like that's I had that idea of like, what if like there's like new light powers that we gain from this experience? Could be really cool, as opposed to a new darkness subclass. Still hope we get a new subclass for this final expansion. Really, really hope. And new stuff and just like I'm hoping that they give us like a tease and show like the mechanical part that we should be excited about without telling us anything about the story.
Right.
Because, it's the end. It's like Kingdom Hearts 3, like whatever, Tears of the Kingdom, God of War Ragnarok. I want to go in there and just be on the ride.
Yeah.
And I hope the ride is worth it. And obviously the raid is going to be most likely the witness and things like that. I did have the idea with this season of like, boy, wouldn't it be great though if in the final shape, like we do fight the witness and then Xivu Wrath just comes up and cuts off its head and she turns out to be the true final boss.
Yeah, right. Just like murks him.
Because like what a great way to end her story and make her also a total badass. Then, but like I don't want to know necessarily which way the witness stuff is going until we sit there day one and do it.
Yeah, when we go in, when we figure out like, all right, we're going in. What does that mean? Yeah, for sure. Definitely built the hype back up a little bit for whatever that showcase is going to have in it, and whatever again, they the thing I've said up at the top was like, I want to hear about. I'm looking forward to the final shape, but I want to know what's post final shape. Like, I want that answered pretty promptly, even though like just to like set the expectation of like I still am under the vibe of like they're just gonna keep making Destiny 2 stuff, and and that's and I'm totally cool with that, but I want to see like how are they gonna evolve it, like, because clearly like they're starting to now, even with these seasons of like shifting away from the seasonal mod they had, but I feel like there probably was always a case of like once they finished final shape, there was going to be a big probably shift to Destiny 2 to bring it into a new era. For sure. Like I still don't think they're moving on to a new game. I still think if that's even a case, it would be way off even beyond Destiny 2. So I just think about like I just want to hear like them say that verbatim of like, there's not a new game anytime soon. We're there will be here's final shape and a set of seasons that you can now like pre-order, essentially. Like when they give that's like a pretty definitive like answer to that, right? So I would just like to hear that at this point, so that we don't have people being the way people are on the internet.
Yeah. And the Destiny 3 conversation's always happening, all the technical stuff, whatever. I was thinking about it again. I know we have this conversation like every episode of like, it's not happening all, but like, can you imagine a Destiny 3 launching 2 years after the final shape, let's say,
No.
and having like all 5 subclasses in it, like from day one? No, you can't. And then think about that. And like, not only are you losing all your guns, all your armor, everything, you're losing half of your subclasses potentially.
Yeah, losing all.
It's not worth it. They've done all this work.
Then you're spending years probably them just putting that stuff back into this game again.
Yeah,
so
it's not worth it.
Not worth it.
So I obviously hope there are things about Destiny that change in significant ways to make it approachable and easier, and maybe more responsive and better integration, better social spaces, better things like that. More seamlessness, potentially having ships that you can walk around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like a personal Helm, so to speak. I want that stuff, but we want that within the realm of Destiny too, I don't think it's worth it to just throw it all out the window and start from scratch again. It just, people didn't like it when Destiny 2 did it. And you got to remember that. So, once again, food for thought.
Once again, please come back down to planet Earth, where Destiny 2 continues to be the same video game.
Where Destiny 2 is a video game for at least a few more years.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm looking forward to that. We still have a full season of new stuff, which I'm sure will maybe make some of that stuff, maybe potentially this season can make that stuff more clear, for sure. And I really would be stoked if like the next 2 seasons are more like a 2-part build up rather than just having the one season be the more core build up, because like that's always been the case sometimes where they'll have like the one season where it's like it's kind of completely separate from a lot of the stuff going on, where like I felt like a little bit of
plunder
that with plunder, where like obviously ultimately did connect to like the raid and Nezarec and stuff, which was cool.
But in a more ancillary way.
But at the time it was just like, what is this? Okay, I guess we're pirating. I guess that's cool. At least like there's like fun little story interactions and bits here and there, and seeing like the Elixir stuff and seeing Drifter be a more integral role to some stuff was cool. But it's like it didn't really connect to this like other stuff.
Drifter this season's also very good.
I'm glad he seems like
him like interacting with Saint and Saladin is just like
it's very
good
fun
stuff.
Very fun. Just like the classic line of like, are you into horrors of the deep and other things and big baddies? Well, anyway, transmat fire. It's a really good line in the salvage stuff. It's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm stoked to hear more from him this season, and where the season goes, because we're helping a big sea creature like tell us the origin of the Witness. It seems like to a certain extent, or like what the Witness did to their people, or these fish Leviathan creatures or whatever they were at the time.
Presumably related to like the Leviathan that Rolk fought and that was on the Hive homeworld, right? You have to assume, because it's like the only other Leviathan we know of, and also assumedly the Leviathan that we saw under the depths of Titan forever ago. It's cool that has weirdly come back around in like this super major way.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's awesome. I really love that. It feels good. It feels like we're on an upswing coming off of Lightfall that I know a lot of people were pretty down on. So
yeah, for sure. Definitely going to be an interesting time for the season. We'll just have to see where it goes. But I think that's all we have to talk about this week, unless you have anything else like that we've kind of missed. I think we've touched on everything.
I think we got it all.
Yeah, season's good, off to a good start for sure so far. Looking forward to seeing where it goes. Definitely going to try and check out some more weapons. Hopefully, so I'll turn around my thoughts on those, but we'll just have to see.
I want to try more exotics as well, and I like chromatic fire. I really want to try because I forgot how much of a change that got.
Right, yeah, that's true. Definitely a couple of builds I want to bust out. I want to try making a different kind of Arc Titan build than what I've been doing for a while with classic Thunder Crash. I definitely want to try some other stuff with that.
Did remember a thing. another kind of criticism. I brought this up in my review of Lightfall as well. I am now feeling that of with the artifact mods and stuff, like it's just in a weird spot. I do not love how stasis 2 seasons in a row now has been like kind of shoved off to the side. Like in a world where like it's like almost never going to be surging, and those mods are like specifically way more expensive than everything else. It just feels like they are decentivizing you from using stasis versus letting stasis also be good and incentivizing you to use the arc and void and strand this season. I don't love that, and I hope that evolves in some more interesting way in the future.
I definitely feel like they could. I hope they rethink a little bit of the surge stuff, because I think that plays into that, right? Because I think there's some, because I think some of it, to be fair, is like in our own minds, right? Like we see, like, well, this is inherently going to give us more damage as a baseline because it gives that surge bonus. When in reality, like we could probably run other stuff and be okay generally, but like I think we get tuned in on those, and because of, like you said, the artifact mods like play into those, it benefits you even more to run that stuff because you're getting cool effects and better mods to run that stuff. So like it feels like, oh yeah, I want to be running arc or strand this season because there's so many interesting mods to do things with compared to like doing stasis this season or solar even. So I think that it's always, I'm sure it's always tough to find that balance of making all this interesting, and I think like reducing the strain, I think, of surge stuff would be nice, because it does feel like it feels like originally like it felt like the intention was to make it feel more open to using more stuff, because you had the anti-champion stuff now across the board and a lot of stuff, and that aspect is great. But then you have like the surge stuff where it is like, okay, it feels like if I don't run this, then it feels like I'm like, feeling like I'm doing
I feel less good in the activity. I feel like I'm doing less damage,
less good, or less helpful to being a supporting with my team, because I'm not getting that bonus that a surge would provide.
Exactly.
So it's tricky, and I think they'll figure it out. Hopefully now that they've seen it out in the wild for a couple seasons, I'm sure that's the thing they've been kind of looking at and seeing how people interact with the stuff and if it's doing the thing they wanted or not, right? So I'm sure that's going to be a thing that they'll maybe revisit and look at again, maybe in a season, maybe next season or the season after, for sure.
Yeah. But just one last thing I had thought of that I want to throw out there.
Yeah, but it's definitely a good call out for sure. Still, we'll be back with an episode.
Plenty more season to go,
definitely talk about more stuff coming in the season, see where the story goes. I'm sure there'll be some interesting story stuff in the coming weeks for sure. And like you said, if there's maybe another exotic mission coming later, that'd be pretty cool. Definitely going to be just, like we said, I think going into the season, it's going to be just interesting in general, just because of the different setup it has with the armor stuff, and obviously going into future seasons where it's going to be even more different. So yeah, looking forward to it. We'll talk about it more in the next episode. But for now, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Listen to us talk about Destiny once again here on Helm to Tower podcast. You can check us out here on youtube.com/Helm to Tower, or you can go find us on your favorite podcast service of choice to listen to us. Feel free to leave a rating or subscribe.
Yeah, leave a like.
If you leave a comment. Always appreciate
comment it. Strand glaive, because we gotta keep the dream alive.
Keep the strand glaive dream alive, or throw us another strand. More strand guns in general would be nice for sure.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at. But yeah, for now, bye. Thanks everybody.
Bye.